Hi, my name is Deb from DG Reads, and this is my furry sidekick, Kylie. We're here today to let my Promptball TBR game help choose my February TBR. I have a lot of really fun, exciting plans for February, and I might be a little delusional in terms of what I can get to, given that it is, in fact, the shortest month of the year, but we are going to do our best to get through everything that I'm hoping to do. In terms of readathons, there's only one that I'm currently planning to participate in, and that is a week-long readathon from Tori Between Pages, and that is the Romantasyathon Star Fall Ball. It's a really fun setup. It's very much focused on reading romantasy, and Tori said basically anything that's romance in a fantasy setting will work for this, so I am going to be working within those bounds. And it has different prompts for what colored dress we're going to wear, who we're bringing with us, what weapon we're bringing with us to a potentially violent ball apparently, and some bonus prompts, etc. I'm trying to read one book per category. Not sure if getting through 6 romantasy books in the space of a week is necessarily going to happen, but I have stacked my TBR for that with a bunch of things I'm really excited for, so I will let you know later on what my plans are for that, since some of that hopefully maybe can get to match up with my Promptball picks. We'll see. Speaking of Promptball, let's look at how I did with my TBR last month. So I had Rest Stop to read a short book by Nat Cassidy, and this one I definitely read. I needed to read Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Kwok for a book starting with N and having an uncommon letter in the author's last name, and I did read that. Neverest by T.L. Bodine was my pick to read a book without a person on the cover, and I did successfully accomplish that one. The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso was my pick to read an Illumicrate book. I haven't finished this one, but there are still several days left in January, and I'm past the halfway point, so I have no doubt I will have finished this one. And then this is where it gets a little bit rocky. City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. This one I made it halfway in, so I read a good chunk, but I did wind up DNFing. I just wasn't finding enough depth to the characters and their motivations, and not enough fleshed out world building for me, so I did put that one down. And then I had What Does It Feel Like by Sophie Kinsella for a character dealing with death, and this one I immediately decided I was not reading because, as I've mentioned in other places, my mother passed away on the 1st of the month, and I didn't think reading about a book where a woman's in the hospital with a terminal illness was really going to be self-care for me. So I did put this one down. But given that I read a lot of books with killers and murders and murder mysteries and all of those things going on, I think I've hit the prompt to read a book that deals in death in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to give myself a punishment for choosing self-care. I do want to get back to this one. I just think I need a little bit more distance from being in a place of grief. So that one we're not punishing for. And then I did wind up finishing off with More or Less Maddie by Lisa Geneva, and that one I did finish and enjoy. So overall, I did pretty well with my TBR. I left one of the books to the very last moment, so it's not quite finished, but there's no way I'm not finishing it by the end of the month. So we are not starting with any punishments. We are going to start with 5 quarters and 5 prompt balls, and we will see how many you wind up maybe having to add depending on how it goes. But I'm hoping, being that February is so short, that maybe we can keep this a slightly small stack. We'll see. So let's go ahead. Going for prompt ball 1. Yellow. For this one, it is a Pop Sugar prompt for this year, and it's where nature is the antagonist. So definitely should have some things here that should work, but we'll have to put thought into that one. For our first prompt, we got a Pop Sugar prompt, and that was to read a book where nature is the antagonist. And for this one, I'm going to go with Black Tide by Casey Jones. This is a horror novel that I picked up because I needed to grab something else from a panko shop for free shipping, but also because it intrigued me. We are following a couple of people, I think they were strangers before they kind of hook up on the beach, and then something happens. There's a meteor shower where it seems to throw everything into chaos and destruction. They lose their keys, I'm assuming in the sand on the beach probably, and they can't get out. It talks about the tide coming in, screams from the dunes. They're isolated in this nature setting, and the meteor shower is naturey, so I'm assuming this kind of fits the bill. Number 2, which is Mean. And this one's from Around the Year in 52 Books, a book with an animal, vegetable, or plant, or mineral in the title. For the Around the Year in 52 Books prompt to find a cover with a animal, vegetable, / plant, or mineral on it, I am going to choose The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a gifted copy I received from Del Rey, and it's one that's been on my list to get to and try for quite a long time. Editing Deb popping in here to say I really messed this prompt up because the prompt was for something in the title. I went with plants on the cover, and somehow in reading things out loud didn't pick up on the error. But honestly, at this point, I'm just gonna leave it. That's what I'm gonna do, because a bridge is made up of rocks, which are made up of nature and minerals and stuff, possibly, because I'm giving myself a little bit extra grace this month and going with it. So, hope you're okay with that one. Stretching this one really a lot, but just wanted to make sure you knew that I knew that this was a bit of a screw up. I will be able to use this for Romantasyathon, and I think it is one that should work well for me because it sounds like there's a lot of good world building in here, and those types of elements in addition to the romance I do own now. I think the first 4 books in this series thanks to Del Rey, so I'm really hoping that I love this and I can binge the rest of the series. These new covers on them are gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. The blurb on the back starts with, a warrior princess trained in isolation, Lara is driven by 2 certainties. The first is that King Arin of the Bridge Kingdom is her enemy, and the second is that she'll be the one to bring him to his knees. So it sounds like a fierce female main character, and I'm definitely here for that. And number 3. Purple. No duplicates yet. Probably jinxed myself, but... And this one is for the 52 Book Club. This one is for a found family trope. And then the next one we got was for 52 Book Club, a found family trope, which is a trope I do tend to really like in books, but you don't necessarily always know going in if it's going to deliver on that. The one that I picked is one that I googled and it says it has found family, so I'm hoping that's true. And that is This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. This is one that I received in one of my regular monthly boxes from Once Upon a Book Club, so I do have some gifts I get to open as I read this, which is extra incentive. I think this also will work for Romantasyathon because we've got some ex-lovers coming back together, ex-friends coming back together. I'm assuming romance will ensue, and I think it's meant to be a kind of fun, good time, as the title implies. Blurb on the back says, former friends, former flames, a mayhem-spiked quest, what could go wrong? So I'm excited to get into this one. Promptball number 4. Yeah, I jinxed it. We got another yellow, so that's our first duplicate. And this one is an easy one, cover with a weapon on it, or I assume it should be easy. Next up we had a cover with a weapon on it, which is very easy as a fantasy reader. The last book I just held up had one on it. There were many I could choose from, but I'm going to give myself a push to finish off a series with This Cursed Light by Emily Thied. This is the sequel to Vicious Grace, which I just read in January and really enjoyed and wanted to go ahead and finish off this series. I feel like it's one where if I don't hurry up and read the second book, I will have forgotten a lot, but there is indeed something stabbing that lemon on the cover, and the little blurb in this one just says, when the gods make the rules, the players must choose, sacrifice their love to save the world or choose love and let it burn. This is a copy I received from Wednesday Books, so thank you to them, and another one that I can use for Romantasyathon. And then Promptball number 5. I really did jinx it because that's another yellow. And this one is for Pop Sugar, and it is for a book that involves an unlikely friendship. Next up, I have for Pop Sugar a book featuring an unlikely friendship, and up to this point I've been doing really well pulling books from my shelves, but I'm going to veer a little bit off here, and I'm going to stretch the prompt a little bit as well, because in February Rebel Witch comes out, which is the sequel to either The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter, depending on what country you're in, and I really enjoyed that book, and I'm super excited to pick up the sequel. Again, it'll work for Romantasyathon. I'm at least being successful getting to my TBR for that, and it's one that we are also going to be buddy reading as part of Mel from Melanor Reads Patreon, so I'm very much going to be picking this up right when it comes out. I want to say it comes out maybe on the 18th. I could be off a little bit with that, but I will be picking that up. And the reason I'm saying I'm stretching the prompt is it's an unlikely romance more so than a friendship, but you know, they're friends too, because we have a witch and a witch hunter. So I think that definitely suits the idea of the theme. Okay, so those are all of our initial 5. I did get 2 duplicate yellows, so I do need to pull 2 more prompts. 7 isn't too bad, so this is number 6. And this one's for the 52 Book Club, and it's for a book told in verse. And that one I'm going to have to do some research on, because I've read a lot that I enjoy, but I don't know what else I have. Next up, we had for the 52 Book Club a book told in verse. And again, this is one where I can't pull from my shelves, because I don't think I own a book told in verse on my shelves that I haven't read yet. I could be wrong about that, but I went through a whole list of them, and none of them popped out as things I own. But I've decided I will be reading Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is an author I've really loved in the past, and this is her kind of memoir of her childhood written in verse. I believe it's a middle grade book intended for a younger audience, but her writing is always so stellar that I'm sure I will wind up enjoying this one as well. And lastly, hopefully, prompt is to read a readers also liked pick. So that can be from Goodreads, Amazon, any place that kind of has that feature on it. And then last but not least, I got a readers also enjoyed prompt. And for that one, I was debating what book I was going to use, and I decided I would go ahead and use one of my Promptball books last month that I really enjoyed. And that was Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy, because I feel like I'm going definitely a little romantasy heavy in this month for obvious reasons being February, but getting something a little horror-y in would not be a bad thing. So let's see what Goodreads has as readers also enjoyed for this one. Okay, screen recording, and I'm gonna try to find something I have on my shelves since the last 2 have not been. So let's see what we've got. Scrolling down, here we go. Candy King Kills series is one that I had considered reading in the holiday season, but I don't really want to read Christmas horror in February, so that's questionable. I just read a short story collection I didn't love from Clay McLeod Chapman. I do kind of want to try Stay on the Line, but again, not one that I own anyway. Don't own these. Read that one. The Queen. I do own The Queen, so let's go with that one. Let me grab it. I actually own 2 copies of this book. This one is a gifted copy I received from Gallery Books. It also came in a Nightworm subscription, so it's one I've been really wanting to get to. It is The Queen by Nick Cutter, and it's one where I have really enjoyed this author in the past, so I'm hopeful for this one. I've heard some mixed reviews so far, so the little blurb says, "It's impossible to know another person, isn't it? To step past that locked door of their secretive inner self. But honestly, do you even want to know?" It sounds like this takes place over the space of one day, which sounds fun and fast-paced. We're following Margaret, and her best friend's been missing for a month. She wakes up one morning to find a new phone next to her, and when she turns it on, there's a message from her friend. And it sounds like she's following breadcrumbs. There's a secret, something's going on, and she's trying to figure out answers. It sounds like it could be bloody, and it could be a good time, so fingers crossed. So this is my very reasonable Promptball TBR with a couple stand-ins in here, but of course there's more. In terms of buddy reads for the month, I am going to be moving on to Valor from the Faithful and the Fallen series. This is book 2 of the Faith Follow Along, and we will have a live show on, I believe it's March 9th. I will have the announcement video from Becca at Becca and the Books down below, which has the full schedule for the full series. I am going to be starting this in February February. I will not probably be finishing it, but since I'm going to be on vacation the first week of March, I do want to make a good dent in this one for February. And then the next book for Wheel of Time along is The Gathering Storm by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. The live show for this one will be February 9th, and I will have already started this book before the end of January, but definitely focusing on finishing this up within that first week or so of February to be ready for the live show. And lastly, in terms of things that I am co-hosting, I have The Street by Ann Petrie. This is our February book for our Classics Buddy Read over on Instagram. It's a very low pressure buddy read. We do a chat at the end of the month about the book. And this one says, The Street tells the poignant, often heartbreaking story of Ludi Johnson, a young black woman, and her spirited struggle to raise her son amid violence, poverty, and racial dissonance of Harlem in the late 1940s. So I've heard good things about this one. I'm eager to pick it up. For the ongoing buddy read that is hosted by Monica at A Little Bit of Monica of Stephen King books, we are planning, I believe, to read The Dead Zone in February. As with any Stephen King, pretty much at this point, it is a reread for me, but I am going to try to pick this one up because I haven't read it in quite some time. This isn't one of his longer books. I think it's around 400 pages, and we're following Johnny, and he winds up with the ability to see the future and see the bad directions the US is going, and might have some resonances with present day, but should be a good time in the fictional world. I am participating in Books and Lala's Buzzwordathon this year, both the title prompts and the cover prompts. So for that, I've got Black Tide, which is already on my TBR you saw earlier, but this is what I'm using for the water word. And then for the cover prompt to have a skyline, I'm going to use Every Time I Go on Vacation Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. This one definitely has a skyline along here and is kind of a fun read that I know Kayla from Books and Lala really enjoyed and is one I'm wanting to pick up. Sounds like a good one to get me prepped to go on vacation. For my goals of making sure I get to short stories and nonfiction each month, I have She's Always Hungry, stories by Eliza Clark. This is a short story collection I figured appropriate for the short month of the year. The blurb on the back says it's the first collection from a major voice in British fiction. It says, a woman welcomes a parasite into her body, a teenager longs for perfect skin, a scientist tends to fragile alien flora, a young man takes the night into his own hands. So it sounds like a good amount of variety in here, which I appreciate. And then for nonfiction, I figured a book about a heart would work quite well for February. This is the story of a heart, two families, one heart, and the medical miracle that saved a child's life. This is by Dr. Rachel Clark, and it is the story of a child who unfortunately gets in a catastrophic accident, and the family donates her heart, and a little boy who's in need of a heart, and I think some backstory on transplants and that type of stuff is going to come up in here as well, but it sounds like it should be an interesting read. I also have plans to get to some arcs. I've got quite a few that come out very early March, so I want to get to them before my vacation. So just really briefly, I've got Tilt by Emma Patty. This one comes out on the 4th of March and is a gifted copy from Simon & Schuster. A pregnant woman is shopping when a catastrophic earthquake hits, and it sounds like it's a tale of survival. Nice short novella. Also on the 4th, I have a gifted copy from Harper of The Good Samaritan by Tony Lean. This one, we are following a grief-stricken man. He's lost a child, he's been divorced, he's in a hailstorm driving one night, and he sees a little boy curled up under a tarp and takes him into the car with the idea of getting help, but the boy starts begging him not to. And it says it is a college professor off a chance at redemption if he can figure out the right thing to do in this thoughtful psychological thriller. From Scout Press, I have Count My Lies by Sophie Stava, and this one also is due out on the 4th. We're following a character named Sloan, and she's someone who tells a lot of lies, and this winds her up in a nanny position, but she finds out that she may not be the only one lying. And then a final one for the 4th, I have The River Has Roots by Amal El-Attar, and this is the author who wrote This Is How to Lose the Time Worm, which I absolutely loved, so I'm really excited to have some new from them. And this one just has a very brief blurb on the back. Follow the river lists to the small town of Thistleford on the edge of Fairy and meet two sisters who cannot be separated even in death. And then I have two from Berkeley Publishing that come out on the 11th of March. And the first one of those is Jane and Dan at the End of the World by Colleen Oakley. This one is following a couple on a date night who wind up somehow in the middle of a crime. This is an author I know I've really enjoyed in the past. And then the second one is Kills Well with Others by Diana Rayborn. This is the sequel to Killers of a Certain Age, which I absolutely loved, so I'm really excited to see where this takes our senior citizen assassins next. So this is part of my TBR. I've definitely got some that I'm going to be reading that aren't in this stack. I may have bitten off more than I can chew this month. We will see. But let me put these back down and talk just a tad more. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am planning to participate in Romantasyathon. I mentioned 4 of the books in the rest of my TBR that I am planning to use for that. I will save the rest of the books that I may pick up for the additional prompts for the vlog that I do plan to do for the whole week of Romantasyathon. But hopefully having a few of those books already on my mandatory TBR will help me out in preparing for the ball. As you also saw, I have quite a few arcs coming up, so I think another arc attack video will be forthcoming. I will have some stuff getting ready for my vacation this month. Very excited for that as well. And I may even get into a little bit of extra romance reading this month. I know, not my typical genre, but it is the season, might as well embrace it. Let me know in the comments below, what are you looking forward to for February? Any new releases coming out that I should be adding to my radar? Anything you would recommend for Romantasyathon as I'm finalizing my last few books for that as well? Let me know all your thoughts on the books I picked and prompts and anything else down below. I would love to chat with you. And if you could hit that like button, I would surely appreciate it. And subscribe if you're interested in more of my romantasy reading, more of my Promptball picks, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I will go ahead and leave this here and see you real soon in a new video.